Hello. In this video we are going to attempt to look at what we currently know about Brexit and the potential impact it will have on the aviation industry. Please note that at the time of recording in April 2019, the outcome of Brexit is still very undecided, so this video may not hold up true in the future. I am, however, aiming to create a follow-up video once details are clearer. Before we dive into the main topic of this video, it helps to have a quick refresher on how aviation regulation works as a whole. On a global scale, aviation regulations are laid out by the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, who are an agency of the United Nations. As a UN member, the UK is also a member of ICAO. The UK is also a member of EASA. EASA is an agency of the European Union. It effectively started life as the Joint Aviation Authority, where it aims to help standardise the certification of aircraft and parts to help form the cross-nation coalition that is Airbus. It later grew to become EASA and take on a number of additional responsibilities, such as crew and aircraft licensing, airworthiness certificates, commercial airport regulations, and ensuring commercial operators can operate freely between EASA member states. Finally, the UK has its own Civil Aviation Authority. This is run by the UK for the UK and is responsible for regulation of certain light aircraft, ATC, and other regional matters. So what do we know that won't be affected by Brexit? Unfortunately, this isn't a very long list. While the UK is set to leave the EU, it is certainly not thinking of leaving the UN. As a result, we know that the UK will continue to be a member of ICAO. There are potentially some questions around how it will maintain its obligations to ICAO in matters that are currently outsourced to EASA, such as licensing and certification, but we'll discuss those in a minute. Also, the UK will continue to have its Civil Aviation Authority in any situation. It may just be that this organisation grows to encompass a greater array of responsibilities. So what would likely change in the event of Brexit? Well, it's all but certain that the UK would leave EASA. As previously mentioned, EASA is an agency of the EU. While strictly speaking, it does include some non-EU countries like Norway and Switzerland. These are only included because they are part of the European Free Trade Area, or EFTA. Unfortunately, it is currently looking unlikely that the UK will be a part of EFTA after Brexit. Leaving EASA has quite a number of consequences for the UK. EASA currently manages the licenses and certification of almost all crew and aircraft. Additionally, EASA is responsible for ensuring that all EASA operators have the right to operate in all EASA states. If a state were to leave EASA, they suddenly don't have the implicit right to operate in this manner anymore. So what does EASA themselves have to say about this? Surely they've been putting plans in place to stop a disaster in the event of no deal. Well, luckily, for the most part, yes. Since Brexit was announced, EASA have been developing contingency plans and schemes to try and ease the impact to aviation, even in a no-deal scenario. They actually have a dedicated section for Brexit on their website that I would highly recommend checking out if you want to read more. I'll leave a link in the video description. So far, EASA has guaranteed that existing certificates issued by EASA to people, such as flight crew certificates, and companies, such as aeromedical centres, will be valid for 9 months after Brexit occurs. The aim would be for the UK to, in this 9-month period, either strike a deal with EASA to align on certification, or to spin up its own certification body to replace it. Additionally, EASA has stated that existing airworthiness certificates issued by the UK will continue to be valid to EASA. EASA have introduced an early applications scheme. This scheme allows UK companies to apply for EASA certification so that they can continue to operate with EASA approval in any Brexit scenario. This early application scheme covers aeromedical centres, air traffic management organisations, approved training organisations, airworthiness organisations, training device manufacturers, and many more. So I mentioned a minute or so ago about EASA allowing commercial operations between its member states. This would obviously be a huge issue if these rights were suddenly revoked, as it would result in the groundings of a very large number of aircraft. So the EU has agreed to offer 12 months of basic connectivity in the event of a no-deal Brexit. This basic connectivity is more restricted than what we currently have. Basically, it permits flights between the UK and EASA member states for both UK and EASA airlines. However, it doesn't cover flights between EASA states, so for example a flight from Spain to Germany, operated by a UK company, and it doesn't cover flights between UK airports, so for example a flight from Bristol to Newcastle, by EASA operators. In order to keep unrestricted travel rights, airlines need to be majority owned and controlled by EU individuals and companies. This actually poses a serious problem to some airlines. So for instance, Iberia is a Spanish airline that is owned by IAG, the, I believe, International Airlines Group, the parent company of British Airways. This is a majority British owned and controlled company, and has the potential to lose the right to operate flights in Spain other than to and from the UK. Another example of an airline potentially in trouble is Ryanair. So Ryanair currently operates a number of regional UK flights, which would be under threat, and is also largely owned by UK shareholders. Ryanair have actually laid out a plan to buy back UK-owned shares and restrict remaining UK shareholder voting rights in a no-deal scenario. This is to be able to ensure that they're able to continue operating in the EU regardless of Brexit scenario. One restriction the EU laid out in a no-deal scenario was that an artificial cap would be placed on the number of passengers permitted flying from the UK to the EU, with this cap being based on 2018 levels of traffic. If this came into effect, it would likely result in higher fares due to the cap on the available supply, assuming demand continues to increase as it has done for a number of years now. Finally, UK cargo operators will be affected by the same restrictions as passenger airlines, with losing the ability to fly between EU states. Well, this all sounds very serious, but what is actually going to happen with Brexit? Well, unfortunately, for the moment we simply don't know. All organisations and individuals can do for now is pay close attention to the progress of negotiations and prepare as best they can. Like I mentioned earlier, I would like to create a follow-up video once the details are clear, and maybe compare the actuality with this video to see how accurate the warnings were. Let me know what you think will happen regarding aviation regulations in the comment section below. Also, let me know if you have any suggestions for future content. As always, thanks for watching.